Hello everybody, this is Tony again with SubZone Ink and the Sublimation Zone Facebook group page. This video today I'll be showing you how to fill up the cartridges with the product that you receive. If you're watching this video, chances are I sent you this link, or you just want to get a little bit more familiar with how to fill up the 252XL cartridges with the SubZone Ink products and the syringes and things like that. I'm just gonna break things down in the best way that I can, the easiest way that I can. I know there are a lot of people who've made videos about how to fill the cartridges, but this one is my own with my own product and stuff like that. If you're watching this, you probably received the 4 sets of the ink, the 252XL cartridges or a form of the cartridges, and then also the syringes themselves. So just kind of break things down. This is the set of cartridges that have the auto reset chip. Basically, every time you refill the cartridges, when the printer prompts you to refill the cartridges, you take them out, you fill the thing back in there, you reinstall them, and the auto reset chip will reset the cartridges and read it as a new cartridge. So that's what that thing is about. Then you have the 4 bottles, the 100 milliliter bottles of ink. They have the nozzle. If you want to use the nozzle to fill up the ink, you can. Or it has, you could just basically take the cap off, remove the foil, and basically you could use a syringe from there. So it has two different ways. Some people like to use the bottle and go directly into the cartridge. Some people prefer the syringes, and I'll explain the benefits of both along the way. Um, and then obviously you have the 4 syringes as well. A couple things to expect throughout this video, and I'm just going to let the video ride, so that way if some of these problems and issues occur, you guys would be familiar with it and just kind of expect it on your journey and into the sublimation world. Again, I try to keep 100% transparency. So my videos are not perfect, they're not great, but they are, a good, eye into, some real life information from some real people, not somebody that's just trying to swindle you into something, or whatever the case is. Yes, this is my product. A lot of people often ask me for videos and stuff like that. And so with the rebranding of the SubZone Ink, I decided to go ahead and do a video and provide that out there, and just throw that out there for the people who need it. I'm just gonna jump in here. The first thing you got to start is by opening the packages of the cartridges. So real quick, just grab a pair of scissors, open that guy up. Now be careful when you open it, because these are shrink wrap. So you can break the actual clips themselves. So be very careful while you're opening these. These clips, they're pretty good, but they could break, and then you just be sitting there thinking like, well, what the heck just happened? So be careful with that. So just to give you a quick introduction of how the cartridges work, you can pull off the little side of them. I'm going to show you guys, and it'll give you a quick introduction as far as how the actual cartridges work themselves. You can see the little circle part. So the inside part of the cartridge is where the ink goes. Basically, I mean, it's kind of hard to describe unless you're really familiar with them. Basically, they're the straw from the bottom part of here that sucks the ink into this circle part. It creates a vacuum, and then the ink from in here goes down another tube into the actual nozzle, and that goes into your printer as well. So it's basically doing a U shape. It's creating a vacuum, it's pulling the ink through and then back out. And then obviously this is sealed with like a plastic seal, so be careful when you're filling the ink itself. Don't puncture it, and I'll also explain to you later on how this plastic seal, if you're the type of person that you want to prime the cartridges yourself, this plastic seal can be damaged, so be very careful with that. So I'm going to put that thing back on. And you could actually take this housing off of all of them, all of the cartridges. You could remove the housing. Let's say you get some ink in between it. You could wipe it down real good, and you'll be good to go. I'm going to start with the red ink itself, of the actual SubZone ink. And I'm going to move these to the side because I have some bottles of ink already open. That's what I want to use first. I don't want to open up a brand new bottle. So that's our SubZone ink. I'm going to use the cartridges. Let me adjust the camera really quick to move over so you get a little bit more of a view. Okay, so you have the 4 syringes, and you'll have the 4 needles, basically, the 4 blunt tip needles. So that's all you need to actually fill the actual cartridge themselves. First thing I recommend doing is removing the plug. So remove the red plug, the colored plug, and then you have to remove this one in the center. Best thing to use is the actual syringe or a set of tweezers or a pen or whatever you think might work out for you. So just kind of pop that in there. It's okay if you get if it damages a little bit, because to be honest with you, you'll actually be discarding this later on. It actually serves no purpose. At least, you know, the information that I provided, it serves no purpose. So there's your cartridge. There it is. You have the plastic seal. Don't worry about puncturing that. Don't peel it off. This stays on until you actually install it into the cartridge itself. So all of them have the plastic seal. Leave that on. Leave the plastic seals on. It'll get punctured when it's installed into the actual printer itself. So I'm going to leave that guy standing up. So a couple things to expect is, I'm not going to lie to you, you guys may see me spill some ink here and there. You might see a couple of drops of ink here and there, things like that. I do refill my own cartridges, but I am not perfect. I am a human, and sometimes it just happens. This is part of refilling your cartridges and things like that. So that's one thing to expect. And another thing to expect is just some overall frustrations. So, you know, you could have done it a million times, you could have done it 100 times, whatever the case is. Sometimes you will have some issues here and there. So, obviously, like that thing right there. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull the ink from the bottle itself. Try not to get too much air. Bubbles and stuff like that could be a pain in the butt. Not too bad. Try to keep it clean. Try to keep it clean as best as possible. I don't have gloves on. I do recommend getting gloves. I do try to provide gloves with the kits these days. If you're watching this right now, or if you're watching this video later on in life, right now we're going through a worldwide pandemic, so sometimes getting the gloves is a pain in the butt. So I do try to provide them with the kits. So basically, you have your ink, you have your cartridge, you have your syringe ready to go. You put it into the hole where the clear plug was, not the back hole. You leave this back hole open. You put the ink to where the clear plug was itself. So boom, in there. Be careful. Make sure you don't puncture that bag. Get the ink filled up. You probably have to go through about two of these to get it going, to get enough ink in there. Now, I'm going to put this so it stands up. I'm going to lean that. I'm going to pull a little bit more ink from here. You will have to tilt the bottle. The needle tip is not that long, so you will have to tilt the bottle. Be careful. Make sure you balance it the right way. Make sure you don't spill any more ink. Spilling ink is not fun, and it's a cost of money, so keep that in mind. Alright, put that there. Inject that one. Normally, I fill the ink to right above the top of the center hole. That's probably about the good fill point. A little bit more is not going to hurt, but that's just where I do it myself. So that's good enough for me. You can see where the ink level is at. Maybe just a quick another squeeze. And we're good. Okay, nothing crazy. So I'm going to put this down so I could grab this bottle really quick. Drop the rest of the ink in there. You know, make sure you don't waste any ink. And I have a feeling that this cartridge is going to tip over, so I don't want to grab that. Alright. Now I'm going to remove this side housing again. This is one thing that's very, very important. I want to talk about when you're filling your cartridges and you're priming them, you're getting them ready to install and things like that. The whole purpose of priming your cartridge is to getting ink inside this circular center vacuum. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but basically in there. Some people say, "Hey, you're making a video and you don't know the technical terms." I'm not gonna lie, I probably heard it 100 times, but it's giving me a brain fart right now. So, but basically, the whole goal is to get ink in there. Once you get ink in there, you'll be able to siphon the ink through the cartridge and into the actual printhead itself. So that's the whole goal. Now, this is where a warranty and things like that come into place if you buy the cartridges from me too. So it's extremely important that you listen to this. If you fill up your cartridges and it starts to leak, you would know almost instantly that it's going to leak. Without even priming it. Basically, your cartridges should look like this, almost brand new still, with it leaking somewhere. Send me a video, send me a message, and I'll make sure I get you a replacement cartridge. Now, if you go through the priming process by pushing ink through, like I'm going to show you here soon, and say it's leaking and you have ink going through here, because when you fill the cartridge, you will not have ink going through the center part. If you do try to prime it, which I will do, I do not recommend, but I will show it. If you prime the cartridge, you'll get ink through there, and you also risk the chance of blowing out this little bag, this little seal. Now, if you do it the right way, it's not going to happen. If you do it, the wrong way or with too much force, it will happen, and then you'll be sending me a message saying, hey, why my cartridge leaked? So be very, very careful if you decide to prime the cartridge. Me personally, with my decision, my choice is, what I do is, when I'm actually done filling up all of the cartridges themselves, I install them into the actual printer, my 7710 or 7720 or whatever these ones were compatible with, and then I instantly run about 5 head cleanings. Actually, let me digress. If you have a brand new printer, all you have to do, you don't even have to prime them. All you have to do is literally don't go to the factory inks. I know a lot of people say, hey, you have to go to the factory inks to check out the printer to make sure it works good. Yes and yes. Yes, I do agree with that, but also I kind of disagree with that when it comes to converting your printer. That's a different conversation that I'll post in a different video. But converting your printer does not void your warranty, and I'll share that information later on. So if you have a brand new printer, I say bypass the converting process, put these bad boys straight in. Let the printer do the charging process and the initialization process, excuse me, and it'll get these cartridges primed, and you'll be ready to go, and you won't have anything to worry about. And literally, the converting process takes half the time, and it's so much easier. Now, if you have a printer that you already use the factory cartridges with, or you're going through a reconverting process, you're changing brands or whatever the case is, or you're just converting it brand new. Say you went through the trial period and you wanted to make sure your printer is good. Now, me personally, this is what I do. Once you take out the factory cartridges, install these one by one. Make sure you put them down firmly so they get a good connection with the chip itself and the actual the chip reader inside the actual cartridge inside the print head. So make sure you get a good connection, install them, and then run it. I know this is going to sound crazy. Run 5 head cleanings back to back to back to back. Run them 5 head cleanings in a row. Don't do any nozzle checks. Skip out on the nozzle check until after the 5th cleaning. When you do these printer head cleanings back to back to back, they make the ones stronger. They get built up pressure, and it makes your converting process a lot easier. However, if you do a lot of nozzle checks in between that, you're just going to keep introducing more air, and it's going to be one of those things where you take a step forward, you take a step back. You take a step forward, you take a step back. There's going to be people who say, oh, I did 20 print head cleanings and I'm not getting any ink. Well, that's because you also did 20 nozzle checks. So those nozzle checks are good, but they're only good to check ink and not to actually get to get you to the promised land is the best way I would describe it. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, don't do this because it'll damage your printer and things like that. I will cover that in another video as far as how, converting your printer pertains to your warranty and things like that. So that's another video. This is just to refill the cartridges and get the cartridges filled. So run 5 head cleanings. After the 5th head cleaning, do a nozzle check. Skip out on the nozzle check until the fifth cleaning, and then do a nozzle check. I'm sorry, skip out on the head. Yeah, so I said that right. I'm sorry. Excuse me. And then you're good to go. Once you see if you have broken lines, do another 3 or 4 in a row. Skip out the nozzle checks in between, and then make sure you do a nozzle check after the 4th cleaning. And normally you might have to do that process 2-3 times in some cases, but eventually the ink will start to flow and you'll be good to go. That's my recommendation as far as how to get them to go. It's the safest way, and trust me, it's a feature on the printer that Epson will not put a feature on the printer that will allow it to damage itself. I don't care what anybody says. So it's the best, safest way, and the safest way for your cartridges. That's what I personally recommend. So go do the 5-to-1 printer head cleaning, and then skip out on those and do a nozzle check. 5-to-1. Like I said, you might have to repeat that once or twice, but that'll get you to the promised land, and you'll have ink flowing in no time. So if you're one to feel that you have to prime the cartridge themselves, I would move on to this point here, and you basically have to make sure that it's sealed. Don't puncture the bottom, and make sure this rubber part is sealed. Make sure that thing is leaning. I'm going to remove this. So basically what you're going to do is, I'm going to explain it before I do it. And I got a little bit of ink on my finger, but it'll be all right. Now it looks worse. Okay. So hey, like I said, things are going to happen, it happens. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to insert the tip of this syringe inside the ink, into the hole where you fill the ink at. You're going to pull some ink out by pulling the syringe, and you're just going to let it draw back into itself, and that'll naturally just kind of fill the actual hole itself. Let me remove this plastic piece so you guys get a clear view of what's going on. So I'm just going to kind of just twist it in there, make sure it's in there. Don't push down too hard, and definitely make sure you don't push anything back into there. Don't push any excess air, and do not push the ink in there by hand. Do not do that because you'll blow a seal, you'll blow a gasket, and you'll be messaging me and you'll be mad as heck. And I will just have to try to help you out as best I can. So basically you're going to pull some ink, pretty simple, and let it go. And as you can see, some ink got inside that actual little hole. Not the best. If you want to do it again, some people might say, hey, let's do it a couple of times. I say do it once or twice, but just let it go. It's extremely important that you let it go. Do not push it back in. If you push it back in, like I said, you're going to blow ink gasket and you're going to be mad. So that's a good prime right there. It's good enough. Once you do that, you might want to do the same thing, install them and run a couple head cleanings just to make sure your ink is flowing and you're good to go. So also, when you do this, just pop that thing out and be very, very careful because sometimes you can get an ink splatter. So that's that. Before you install your actual cartridge into the printer, make sure that this front hole is covered. I recommend using that because it's easier to pop in and out. And then this one has to be open. This one has to be open for air ventilation. So that's extremely important. So I'll do that one. That's the red one. And I'll do the blue one as well, just to kind of give you guys a good example, just to make sure. So I like to pop it off just so you guys can see. You don't have to do this part at home. This is strictly for the tutorial. But I'm popping off this side wall just so you guys can see what's going on. So I'm going to grab my blue ink, or like I said, I already had a bottle open, so be careful. Hold on a second. Let me get the syringe ready. Got to do that. It's important. Get this guy out of here. Once you do it the first time, it's really just a matter of refilling the ink, and that's the easiest part. This is just getting your ink cartridges ready to fill up, ready for sublimation. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some ink out of that. Excuse me, guys. This is I'm not that well at making videos, so if you had a bad angle at something or something like that, my sincerest apologies. I just hope you guys can get the best understanding of it. So insert that into the center hole. Let the ink flow in. Good to go. I'm gonna lean that against this one because I don't want it to fall over. Probably took out too much ink, to be honest with you. Oh, yep. See, as you see, okay, I took out too much. I thought I did, and that's a perfect example of what too much ink will look like. So it'll come back out and it'll spill everywhere. That wasn't too bad. Caught it pretty quick. So I'm gonna put the rest of that into my bottle. And that's that. I'm going to use the corner of this thing to wipe up this ink. Some of you may be wondering, this is actually a puppy pad. So this is something that I had around the house. I knew it would be good to fill up the cartridges, and it's just good to kind of have around the house to soak up things. So now that's a filled up cartridge. Same thing, if you want to prime it, that's totally up to you. Just be careful not to damage that. Just be very, very careful not to damage the actual seal, and don't create any leaks and stuff like that. Like I said, if the cartridge is leaking from the factory, at this point it'll be leaking. So it's pretty cut and dry. If say it's leaking and you have it filled up and it's like this, the first thing I'm going to say is, hey, send me some pictures. If that circle is filled, it's going to be really hard for you to convince me that it wasn't damaged basically by the operator. So it's not to deter anybody and stuff like that, but this is what a filled cartridge looks like. This is what a somewhat good primed cartridge look like. So maybe not the best examples, but this is real life, and it's good enough to get you guys going. So I personally recommend, once you're good to go, you could put your colored plug back in there according to the actual cartridge. Cover these guys back up, and then you would do that the same thing to the black and the same thing to the yellow. And you can just do it, really, you could just do it whatever order. One thing I will say is the black cartridge, you'll be going through more ink. The black cartridge is about a double, almost a triple cartridge, so you'll blow through your first bottle of black ink pretty quickly, mainly because you have to fill up this cartridge. It's about twice as big, almost 3 times as big as the other one. So this holds a lot of ink naturally because you use a lot of black ink. So don't be surprised when you fill up your cartridge like, hey, where all my black ink go? It's right here. It's inside the cartridge. So once you do that, disregard that yellow one. Make sure your cartridges have the plugs in the right spot. The back ones are empty. Some people like to make sure they're lined up so they look good, but so make sure that the back holes are emptied and you're good to go. And then I personally recommend do 5 head cleanings to get them going. 5 head cleanings, 1 nozzle check. 5 head cleaning, 1 nozzle check. By then, if you do it the right way, if you follow that recipe, you should be pretty close to getting ink, and you should have no issues, and you let the printer do all of the work. If you have to prime it, like I said, I showed you how to prime it, and that'll definitely help you out to get to the promised land. But just be very, 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 very careful. That's my best recommendation as far as causing any damage to the cartridge itself. So, and that's it. Like I said, you're good to go. I will be making another video this is a video as far as filling the cartridges. We'll make another video as far as how to convert a Epson 7710. This 7710 is refurbished from Epson themselves. So I have my pause on that, and I'll be making a video as far as how to get that thing basically converted. So thank you guys very much. Let me do some quick product advertisement. Obviously, it's important. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Thank you guys very much make sure you subscribe to the page, the SubZone Ink page. Thank you for being part of my journey, and thank you very much for supporting my product. So go SubZone Ink. Thank you guys very much. Hopefully this video was informative, and if you have any issues or any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. So thank you guys. God bless, and go SubZone Ink.